Entrepreneurship is something that if I learned something earlier, it would have been how money works. And the major investment that you have to make as an entrepreneur has nothing to do with money. You have to make a major investment in your education prior to doing anything, because actually the top reason that entrepreneurs fail is actually overfunding. They go out and they believe that they need to borrow everything and raise this money up. And, money highlights your weaknesses often. If you're an entrepreneur and you've got a poor conversion rate on social media, well, buying more ads is not going to build your conversion rate. If your product is weak, buying more product is not going to help you sell more. So money can highlight your weaknesses. And that is the biggest flaw that entrepreneurs have, that they don't know how money works.
Today, Daymond John is going to share why knowing how money works is vital to making it as an entrepreneur and how you can start at any age. This is the Launch Your Business podcast, because we know starting a business is challenging, but it doesn't have to be confusing. Each week, we'll give you the tactical advice and the necessary tools to scale your business without feeling burnt out. I'm Terry Rice, business development consultant and staff writer here at Entrepreneur Magazine. Let's dive in. When I was in elementary school, there was this store in my school called the Handy Dandy Supply Store. And you could buy pencils, erasers, all that stuff you need for school. So I got an idea. I wanted to make some money, and I started selling pencils and pens and all that stuff as well. And that did well enough, but then I had another idea. Instead of selling school supplies, I would sell candy. So here's what I did. I went to the supermarket with my mom, and I bought a bunch of candy in bulk and then sold those individual pieces for 25 cents each. Now, after a while, I got way too busy, so I had to hire someone to help me. Shout out to my friend, Matt Ballaterra, for your help back then. And we kept on scaling. After a month, I made $20 as a fourth grader, which is a lot of money. And then come that Monday, the principal shut us down. Apparently, kids were spending all their lunch money on our candy, which did not go over too well. So most entrepreneurs have a similar story. They had a lemonade stand, they were cutting lawns, whatever it is. But unfortunately, more kids need to hear stories like that. They don't persist in every community. They don't persist in every neighborhood. And that's what we're going to talk about today with Daymond John. And just in case you're not familiar with him, he's an entrepreneur, investor, TV personality, including Shark Tank, as well as the founder and CEO of the apparel company FUBU. All right, I'm going to pause here to take a breath because that's a lot. But he's also an author with a new book called Little Daymond Learns to Earn. And he'll share more about the book during our interview. But what shocked me is how the lessons learned can be extremely valuable to any entrepreneur, regardless of how old they are. So today we're going to talk about why knowing how money works is the key to success in business, why self-education is the key to financial independence, a simple process for living within your means while still enjoying yourself, and for the parents out there, how to raise creative entrepreneurial children. But I got to give you a heads up here. I was very excited for this interview because I saw Daymond speak at South by Southwest years ago, and he just blew me away. But it wasn't just because of the content he shared, it's because of the character that he displayed. I'm going to retell the story with him right now.
How you doing today?
I'm good, and I just want to say thank you for obvious reasons, but one thing you might not remember is I've actually met you before, and I was talking to your assistant before we hopped on, but I saw you at South by Southwest. And as you were speaking, at one point, this woman said, I teach at this school for dyslexic children. Can you just give me some message to deliver to them? And what you did next shocked me. You got off the stage, you walked up to the woman, and you said, hold your camera up. I'm going to make a video. And you made a video for these kids saying, look, you have a superpower. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. I'm with you, and I know you're going to do well, and I'm rooting for you. And I remember this 5 years later, and I just know that the impact you had on those kids had to be incredible, because I'm still telling the story, which means they're still telling the story. But when I saw that, I was like, wow, this guy's the truth. I will always be rooting for you. That this moment was just so incredible. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's those little moments, man, that is not a lot of heavy lifting, but it will hopefully, give somebody enough inspiration when somebody's telling them no.
Well, you inspire me too, so it's working. It's working.
Oh,
I
thank you,
appreciate
man.
it. But I do obviously want to talk about your book, Little Daymond Learns to Earn, because I mentioned to you before in Austin that the reason why I got my first job is because I wanted to buy a FUBU shirt. It was like a light gray FUBU shirt with like this Carolina blue lettering on it. And I saw it and I was like, wow, I got to get that shirt. So I got a job making, I think like $5 an hour. And I was like, well, shoot, I'm only 9 hours away from getting that shirt. So you inspired me to get a job, and here's where I'm at now. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I definitely appreciate it, man. Yeah, I felt the same way about Puma and other brands as I was coming up with this being the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Yeah, so excellent. Where are you at right now? Are you in Brooklyn?
Yep, I'm in Brooklyn. Yep.
All right, I see the Brooklyn sign in the back. Represent.
Yeah, I have to get a Queens one somewhere. But there's so much I want to say. I mean, even beyond the book, I will say one more thing, just because it's brilliant how you had bouncers wearing your FUBU gear to get more eyeballs on it. Unlike you invented influencer marketing. So I actually wrote a blog about that.
I didn't invent it, but definitely I learned from a lot of people, and I took it to whatever level I felt that I could take it from, or to. Yeah, that was a pretty sweet deal. I knew that also I had some of the biggest guys in town, ready to protect me at any given moment so they can keep the flow of shirts coming. So,
Yeah, I love it. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let's talk about the book. And I'm wondering, what made you want to write a book about children pursuing entrepreneurship?
because I realized that I had read my daughter one too many princesses and pony books. And I also realized after all these years on Shark Tank, whether in the public sector or the private sector, the biggest or the most common thread of all the people that needed to grow their company or even start a company is they didn't know how money works. So they could have had a passion, they could have had a skill set, great idea, great invention, but it all went down to the basic fundamentals of not knowing how money works. So, you can have all the help in your life, and if you don't feed yourself or know how to put nutrition properly in your body, no matter what your intentions are, it's just not going to work out well for you. And it's unfortunate. I looked around, and I guess like other entrepreneurs, I want to find a way to connect with my daughter. At 5 and 6 and 7 years old, and like other entrepreneurs, I figured somebody else is going to solve this problem. I kept looking around, and though nobody's going to solve this problem, man, I got to start trying to solve this problem.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I have 4 kids and they're all under 7. And I know your book comes out soon. I'm getting it as soon as possible because I got to make some money off of them. These kids aren't cheap. So I need your help.
Yeah, man. My oldest girls, I'm on my second marriage, but they didn't grow up with financial intelligence. No matter how hard I tried to teach them, because I didn't have anybody who taught me. And the kind of, you work for half, and I'll pay the other half. That is a great discipline to teach them, but that is a work discipline. That is a work ethic discipline. That is not a financial discipline, right? So, you know, um, this is needed. The reality is that our school system is set up like it was, 50 to 80 years ago, where kids are learning trades like shop and things of that nature. And I think every young man and woman now needs to know a trade, but that was for when we were building battleships and we were in the industrial era. We are now in the content and communication era. And if all these things, I mean, you know it and I know it. How many things from school did we really need? I mean, yes, reading, yes, writing, yes, arithmetic. But a lot of other things we had at school, and even some of the arithmetic, I've never used that stuff in everyday work. Um, but why aren't they teaching them about? Because all of us will have to understand what compounding interest is, what is credit, what are taxes, how money, works, how to pay a bill when $3 comes in, whether we learn it or not. We're going to face it. When $3 comes in, $1 is supposed to go for what you have to pay. The second is supposed to go for an investment, and third is supposed to go for what you would like to have, but you don't have to have. But most Americans always put number three for number one, never get to number two, and number one they may get to it, and it creates a vicious cycle. Domestic violence, gangs, poor nutrition are all systemic issues from money, the lack of understanding how financing works. And so if our children are not learning this stuff, at least bit by bit, but then at 16 years old can acquire $600,000 to $700,000 worth of student debt that you will not be able to pay off until the average 51 years old. Well, we are setting them up for failure.
Yeah, I think about my experience in high school and even elementary school, and we're reading all these random books like Catcher in the Rye or Huck Finn, and I'm like, we should have been reading something like Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And eventually, your book, Little Daymond Learns to Earn, because that's what's going to help us going forward. That's what's going to empower us. And I mentioned before that I got a job because I wanted to buy your gear, and my job was actually just doing lawn work. And there's this service in my town called Rent a Kid. I know the name's kind of weird, but that's what it is. So what I'm wondering is this: pretend you're a kid right now in 2023. What kind of business would you open up if you're 10 years old and you just read Little Daymond Learns to Earn? What kind of business would you open up?
Something I'm super passionate about. Everything, every single thing that a kid is consuming, they can sell. So there's no problem with trading up on sneakers. There's no problem with being a kid who likes to travel. So the business you have is the a mini blog for fellow kids. But I know your parents are going someplace for spring break. But do you know where you should be going with them? Hey, and so a newsletter or whatever the case is, or of course a leaf business or anything else. If you, I mean, at the end of the day, if you know that fall is coming, you live in Brooklyn and New York City, and leaves are going to come and start falling, and you know that you can hopefully make enough money to go to Costco and or the dollar store and buy a bunch of clear leaf bags and go door to door when the leaves are out there, and you are going to make a dollar extra, $2 extra, but that person no longer has to wait for an Amazon package to come or go to the store, and they're going to have to take the leaves anyway.
There you go.
There's some bags to sell.
Yeah, and there's a mindset piece too, because I'm always shocked. Like whenever it snows here in New York or any opportunity for a young kid to make money, I don't see them out here hustling. Unlike when I was a kid, I would have been out there like trying to be the first one on the block because if you don't get up early enough, you're not going to get paid. So, do you weave that into your story as well, like the mindset part, not just the actions?
Well, the mindset is this. It's the strategy. I weave into the story the strategy. It doesn't really go as well as little Damon would like it when he first decides to open the business, and he has to learn how to open the business and do it the right way. However, what little Damon does learn to do is he learns to tap into all of his friends' best skills, because being an entrepreneur is a team sport. There's 30 million small businesses in this country. 22 million of them are operated by single mom and pop shops. However, you can be a hairdresser, but you still need to rent a chair from a shop. You still need to get your goods from someplace else, right? You still need to find a way to market. It is a team sport. And in the book, as little Damon tries to get what he is after, he called in his friends, and he's the same Damon who called in three other friends for FUBU. And it also shows and it breaks the stigmatism that a lot of people think the boss is the only one that prospers and the boss is the one that does tell everybody what to do. At the end, little Damon and all his friends then individually all make enough money themselves to then get what they all want, not with just little Damon. And being an entrepreneur, it is about service as well to the people that work for you as well as your customers.
So when I hear about Little Damon and his crew, I feel like there needs to be a cartoon, almost like Fat Albert back in the day. Like I feel like is this the next step where there's a continued lesson? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, it'll grow into many things. So I want to be very clear that I wrote this book. I don't need any more public notoriety. I air on CNBC 60 times a week. I'm the Kardashians of CNBC. There is no money in books, and we have a lot of programs now to donate to 501c3s, because a lot of times the people that need this education can't necessarily afford it. Yes, white, black, and indifferent, but of course, as an African American, we don't come from legacy wealth, so we can't necessarily go from our grandparents as well as some other cultures may have a little bit more of an advantage. But this is about me and my life journey now. My buddy Mark Cuban has vowed to break the break this preying off of our fellow Americans when it comes to medicine in this country. Um, a pill that is $1.50, $150. He's finding ways to get it at $20 or $15, so you can get 10 pills. I have a lifelong legacy now of trying to break the system or bring attention to the fact that the system needs to be changed. I do not believe there's a conspiracy here. I just think that we grew up in a different time and era and age. And so I will be putting out as many products as I can, but I am welcoming anybody who has a product and or another way to empower our families on this journey. If I started a business today and this was a business, and if it failed tomorrow from Shark Tank, well, then it failed. I found a way to connect with my little 6-year-old, and next year I'm going to find another way to connect and educate her. And then at 8, and then at 9, and then at 10, and then at 11. And so this is my lifelong journey. And I realize I have a lot of teachers and educators around me advising me. They even tell me that they don't have financial intelligence. Yes, can they tell you everything about science and history and math? But do they know what good debt is and bad debt? No. So the people who are taking care of our most valuable possession, they're not even educated in it. So this is a lifelong journey. To add to your to just basically answer your question, will there be books and curriculums and various other things? Absolutely. Will there be other people that I will say, what do you have? Let me highlight you. I don't care, but this is going to be what I will die doing.
You're kind of calling me out here because, like I said, I have 4 kids, and I'm really focused on coaching them, like with CrossFit and athletics, and thinking, how can I raise these little athletes? And to the point, maybe we don't necessarily need to push that as heavily. So what I'm going to do right now is commit to doing, I'll do this. I'm going to read your books, and I'm going to have my kids implement what they've learned, and I'm going to report back through Entrepreneur and other channels. Like, here's what my kids are doing because of this book.
I believe, no, I'm not calling you out either, because I believe that kids do need sports and discipline. I think they need all of it. Right now, we're allowing our children to be raised by iPads of 1,000 splintered families that are playing with toys. Our kids no longer they care more about unboxing than creating what's in the box. However, I think that to keep our kids to be athletes, it shows them how to work within a unit. It keeps them off the street. You see as a parent if your child is sluggish or various other things going on due to maybe external influences. And I think there's discipline needed as well. Trust me. So I have a high amount of respect. And I think that person who's going to be able to compete is also, and work within a team unit, is also going to be able to be more of a little Daymond learn to earn candidate, because they're going to at least understand structure and discipline.
We're going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, Daymond will share how we can raise entrepreneurial children. But like I said earlier, these are also lessons we can apply as adults. Just get started. If you've ever looked for tips on launching a business, just get started seems to come up a lot. And while that's vaguely motivational, it does not provide any real direction. Because the next logical question for anyone would be, well, how do I get started? What specifically should I do? Well, if you're looking to quickly start a business without the confusion, risk, and pressure of doing something entirely new, I have got a solution for you. It's called the Solopreneur's Fast Track, a step-by-step process on how to start a business using the skills you already have and actually enjoy using. So let's say your favorite part of a previous job was email marketing. You'll learn how to start a business offering other companies advice on how they can improve their email marketing. Or maybe you are really good at integrating complicated tech tools. You can help other organizations do the same thing without the need to bring on a full-time hire. So the main point here is that everything you need to start a business is already within you. You don't need a cool website or fancy tools. And by completing the course, you'll also discover a simpler approach for attracting clients without using complicated funnels or cheesy sales tactics. You can finish it over a weekend and start making money in as little as 30 days. You'll gain the clarity and confidence you need to start your business and receive a one-page business plan so you can immediately apply what you've learned. Get started today and receive a 20% discount by heading to terryrice.co/fast. That's terryrice.co/fast. Let me ask you another question. What are some other things parents can do to raise entrepreneurial children?
Entrepreneurial children is an entrepreneurial mindset. It is not necessarily that they need to be an entrepreneur because you can, I like to say, one of the best entrepreneurial thinking people in the world is Bezos. He finds ways that in a pandemic he goes, you know what, my shipping is being bottlenecked, so all my employees, you can take an extra box home or any boxes home. Excuse me, to customers and make some extra money. And what do? Well, I reduce my shipping costs. I retain more of my people working for me. They get to make more money, and I guarantee that my boxes get to the end customer, so they're happy. That's called entrepreneurial thinking at the highest level, right? So here are some takeaways the parents can do right now. I told you how $3 works when it comes into a home or into anybody's pocket. I did the same with my little daughter. I said, "Baby, you got $300 this year." And I don't know why the Tooth Fairy is giving away 20s these days. I have no idea why, because I got $2.25 for all my teeth. But okay,
Right.
I broke out her $300. So 100. Because remember when we talk to our kids, say, "You know how hard mommy and daddy work for this?" They go, "I don't know. I mean, I came into this life you working like that and taking care of me. I don't know. What am I supposed to say? Trick question,
Yeah.
right?" So I say, "Here, all right. What's the first 100 you're gonna do? You're gonna give to mommy and daddy." She was like, "Okay." She didn't learn anything from this. She was like, "Whatever."
Right.
The second, though, I want you to start a business. And I said, "But a business does one or two things. A business solves a problem for somebody, or brings somebody joy. And if you solve a problem, you guarantee you're going to bring somebody joy." I
Mhm.
said, "Who do you want to bring somebody joy? Who do you want to do? What do you want to do?" She said, "We live near the beach. Daddy. I want to put shells and sand that I hand pick on the beach, and I want to make them for my friends and people, and I want to give them away." I said, "But maybe you could sell them." She said, "Okay, Daddy, I want to do that." And I took the third 100 and I said, "Remember, this is what you would like to have, but you do not have to have." I said,
Mhm.
"What would you like to have?" She said, "I want a pet." So, we talked about whatever it was, and we drilled down to a beta fish that works for us. I was like, "Okay, so long as mommy and daddy approve of it, and the IRS and the police later on, we'll get back to
Right.
that, you can get whatever you want." So she went and got a beta fish. And then we're home sitting looking at the fish. And I said to her, "Baby, that's what the money you made. That bought you freedom." She said, "What do you mean freedom?" I said, "You didn't have to wait for Christmas. You didn't have to wait for your birthday. You didn't have to have daddy pick it up and you guess the color. You went and got that fish yourself on your terms. That fish is yours.
Mhm.
And from now on, you have to, that's what money buys you, is freedom. And freedom could be time with your family, giving to those in need." And she started to understand what money got her. Now we went back to number two. I said, but guess what? Now you got a business. So we bought 30 bottles that she was supposed to, put in. She wanted to give away 20. I said, "Baby, you're going to be bankrupt. And if you're bankrupt, you can't pay number one and and you can't have freedom." So she said, "What do I need to do?" "You can give away five and you can sell 25. She sold 25 and then she was able to buy 50 and give away 10. And then she understood. This simple concept she understood.
I love that approach because the step by step process is great. And on my end, I'm trying to teach my 7-year-old daughter how to make money. So we've been collecting cans, like not from outside, just from home, and then returning them. But it's funny because in Brooklyn, it's a different scene, right? There's like grown adults in line to return cans with carts and carts and carts full of cans. So I'm like, we gotta start getting here earlier. And we need that first mover advantage. So that's one lesson she learned already the hard way.
What else does she love to do? My godfather, my daughter's godfather said, he said, I want to buy something for my goddaughter. And I said, "Don't buy her anything, man. She has too much." He was like, "But you know what? This is the time to spoil her." He said, "If you're gonna, and you know what? If she has 10 dolls, well, then 11 ain't gonna hurt." But he said, "You know what I'm gonna do?" So every year he buys her a stock from a company, and so he bought her Disney stock, one share, and he puts it in a binder, and he gives her the stock along with a toy, and he said, "Misha, Daddy now works for you. He's on ABC, and you're his boss, and here's a toy." And he does the same with the little boys in his life. He buys them a share in Caterpillar, and he buys them a little Caterpillar toy. And now they go through it and they look over the years and they see these pictures of them getting the toy, them with the stock and these books, and they start to understand that this book was worth this amount now then, and now it's worth this amount. These are small things that you can give kids that over the next, 10 years, you're giving them in Christmas and birthdays alone. Think about that.
I think it also teaches them, we'll call it strategic patience, because it's like, yeah, you can have this doll and go on your merry way. But, if you put that $10 into stock, X years later, that's going to help you buy your first car, which you probably want more than that doll that you had when you were a kid.
There's a lot of things that are very small anecdotes and things you could do. And I am inviting anybody and everybody listening or watching us right now to give us more tips that we can share with the world and share with our families.
Yeah, one question I have is this. What is one lesson about entrepreneurship that you wish you learned sooner? And I know everything that you've done has made you, but if there's one thing that stands out, like, gosh, I wish I realized this, what would it be?
Well, we've already talked about it, honestly. So I'll try to find out something else. I mean, it was really how money works. Again, that's it, right? Because, us entrepreneurs, not even entrepreneurs, as an African-American, I was going down the block. I was going to check cashing places, and I was paying, by the time I was said and done, I was paying about 6% to get my checks cashed and then money orders when the bank was right next door. That's 6% of my entire salary. I didn't think of it. Right? It's just 6%. I mean, when the basis points go up 2 points, you know how much that hurts, but we never focus on the small percentages when the bank was right next door and I could have done that. So it is really about, as an entrepreneur, it is about being a little more vulnerable and walking in the room and saying, I know this. Does anybody else know other things that I can be, I can help? And I can, of course, try to give you any knowledge I have. So entrepreneurship is something that if I learned something earlier, it would have been how money works. And the major investment that you have to make as an entrepreneur has nothing to do with money. You have to make a major investment in your education prior to doing anything, because actually the top reason that entrepreneurs fail is actually overfunding. They go out and they believe that they need to borrow everything and raise this money up OPM. And, money, if you don't have the money highlights your weaknesses often. If you're an entrepreneur and you've got a poor conversion rate on social media, well, buying more ads is not going to build your conversion rate. If your product is weak, buying more product is not going to help you sell more. So money can highlight your weaknesses. And that is the biggest flaw that entrepreneurs have, that they don't know how money works.
That's brilliant, because I used to work at Facebook, and it would drive me crazy when clients had horrible landing pages. They're like, oh, let's up our budget. And I'm like, no, it's not. The budget's not going to help. Like, get a better website. No one wants to buy this stuff. Like, that's the problem. So I can appreciate that. And I know you're short on time, so I don't want to overextend the welcome here, but thank you very much for this. It's going to help my kids. It's going to help everyone listening as well. And I got an idea. If you're working with anyone else, maybe it's someone you're mentoring or someone in your program who can also come on the show and provide the same kind of insight and guidance, let me know, because I want to chat with them as well.
Well, it is an honor, Amanda. Can definitely talk to Ted or Karen and see some of the great entrepreneurs that we know that are doing amazing work, and they're deserving of what they do. But I definitely thank you for this opportunity. And again, anytime you have any other ideas or techniques that we can share with the public on how to educate their families and our little sharks, I think that I would love to highlight them, because it is a team sport, and we all got to do this together.
And that's our show for today. Again, Daymond's new book is called Little Daymond Learns to Earn, and I just know it's going to be a great way for kids to discover how money works and how they can make their own money on their own terms. So if you have a kid, definitely consider picking it up. And it would also make a great gift for other parents as well. And speaking of gifts, let's give away a few copies of Daymond's new book. To enter, just post your key takeaways on Instagram with a screenshot of this episode and tag me at It's Terry Rice. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch up with you next time. Apply what you've learned on today's show. You'll find the show notes and more resources at terryrice.co/podcast. Again, that's terryrice.co/podcast. And the best way to support this podcast is by subscribing, telling a friend, and leaving a review. Also, you can get more tips by following me on Instagram at It's Terry Rice, or follow me on LinkedIn. This episode was produced by Josh Wilcox of Brooklyn Podcasting Studio and edited by Dan Lardy. Special thanks to my wife, Dominique, for keeping our kids relatively quiet as I recorded. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.